That's right. I didn't think about it, but yeah. Check, check, 1 2 1 2. Y'all good back there? Check, check, check. 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Wisconsin wins on Saturday. If I'm like, you couldn't break 30 against either of those. You couldn't break 30 against Dallas first. I will. I have seen that score exactly. Yeah, you beat the let's start sending you on Tuesday.
Oh, you're gonna put it in bold? Yeah. I would just link it. Post them at the same time.
Check 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 6. ESPN mic check 1 2 1 2 3 4.
I wouldn't give it away. Don't go in there. If it was like an actual
I like it because I can dishwasher. And like most
On this station, you give me a solid right in that game. And then they didn't get the ball back.
They're not very good.
Well, they hit that big score to cover them touchdown. I was just like, ooh, okay.
Or if it was
I didn't write this anywhere. I said on Tuesday, I'll be shot. Show a couple of special things to play.
I really think you follow students.
It makes sense that every other team, I wasn't sure.
That's true. Matt Stahl, the operator goes in.
No, I like it's just the operator. Then you ran the other one.
He's got no place to go yourself, because I'm already just
Right, they're probably not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know. I can't. They saw the wind and said I can't really. I don't know. Where they would have gone. The made-up weather report is smaller. It's only right. Only the team when there's not that team. Only the team that's winning Star Wars. Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I'll admit, I made a similar bet with him last year and I lost. He was like, this is going to be, I said Alabama, it's going to be a blowout. Multiple scores. Yeah, multiple. It was like 14. Yeah, I said at least 2 touchdowns. I was like, no. And to be fair, they ain't called for holding on last year. Well, he ran it out. Here's the ring. You don't mind, right? Yeah, I'll go for it.
Yeah, you guys listen on hard.
Well, since that was all, I thought Alabama was
Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and have Coach Sheridan begin with an opening statement.
Yeah, another week, another opportunity for us to compete against a tremendous opponent. I think Coach Fickell, Coach Tressel, the history, speaks for itself on the quality of defense that they've always had, the tremendous challenge that it'll be for us in a very hostile environment and a super proud program that has great tradition, great history, and great expectations. So it'll be a great challenge for our group, and looking forward to the opportunity. Fire away.
Thanks, Coach. Starting left side with Chase.
I think when you were in Indiana, you went to Wisconsin one time, I think at the end of the COVID year. Can you just speak to the what you just mentioned, the hostile atmosphere, the crowd noise, et cetera?
Well, there's no fans at the game for that game. So,
That's right.
yeah, I've been there a few times as a player too when I was a player, and so I just think it's a program that loves football. The fans are very passionate, and it's a tremendous environment to play and compete in. And that's a credit to their fan base and the pride that they have in that state for that program. And so it'll be a challenge for sure, and one we're excited for.
Go to the middle of the room, Emily Grace.
Coach, as far as Jalen's presence in the pocket, what do you see that's working, and where do you want to see growth headed into week 3?
Well, I think he did some nice things the other night as far as avoiding some rush and creating some plays. And I think there's other times where, we're looking for him to try to get the ball out of his hands, when there's opportunities that present themselves that way. So, I don't think any two plays are the same. I think every situation, you're just continuing to try to teach and point out, opportunities to just stay away from some negative plays that way. And sometimes, there's not much the quarterback can do. But in the opportunities where we feel like maybe he could have made a different choice or decision, we just talk through that. Obviously these are split-second decisions, and he made a lot of great plays for us. And there's a couple where, hey, maybe if you got the ball out here, or you threw the ball here, or whatever it may be. And so that happens every game. I think he's been receptive to that, and acknowledges and recognizes each and every game opportunities for improvement. And I thought there was a lot of great moments for him, in that regard in the game as well.
Let's go to the left side, Steven.
Coach, obviously he has the speed, but when you watch Jam Miller run with the power and the passion that he does, what does that bring the team, especially on that explosive run last week?
Yeah, I think, Jam is just a tough kid, very competitive. He's not the tallest player, but he's, built. And he has power, and he has quickness, and he is a tough tackle. And so none of the things that have shown up in the first 2 games is a surprise to anybody in our building, because he does it each and every day in practice. And so he's a great kid. He's tough. He's competitive, extremely hard worker. We like Jam a lot.
Front right side, Dave.
Yeah, a lot of inconsistency going into the final quarter, but in the final quarter, the last 6 minutes, some really good things that worked. What can you replicate from those final 6 minutes that will help you going forward?
Well, I think just simple execution and fundamentals. I think obviously we all know that, you know, we had some issues with some penalties and some lapses in execution, and that certainly hurt us in the first, you know, 3 quarters of the game. And I thought the guys did a better job, you know, of executing simple things well. And you know, we were explosive in the game. We just had a lot of those called back, and so we need to just zero in on the details, the fundamentals, the execution. You know, and there's a lot that goes into that, but I also think that's what, you know, what ended up hurting us was when we didn't focus on the small things, on the details. We didn't play with good fundamentals and technique. You know, we fouled. You know, we had penalties, and so. I thought they did a better job of that, obviously, you know, of just executing simple plays well, and they were helpful.
Go to Mike in the middle here.
What'd you see from Wilkin on film and just with the 3 holding penalties with him? Is there a teaching point, a coaching point on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in all those moments you're trying to just teach and help a player improve. You know, I think Wilkin cares a whole bunch. You know, wants to be as good as he can possibly be. And I think in some of those moments, it goes back to what we talked about. And it's not just specifically to him, it's for the whole group. You know, if your fundamentals aren't right, if your eyes aren't in the right spot, you know, you can get out of position. And I think that's what, you know, not just for him specifically, but our whole group, you know, it goes back to footwork, eye discipline, simple things to make sure that you're in the right position to make the play, you know, the right way within the rules. And so that's what I would say to the whole group is just making sure that we're detailing the right details so that we can execute simple football well. And as we all know, those are, you know, you're a foot off or an inch off or the wrong hand placement away from, you know, not getting called for a penalty. And so that's what we're focusing on, not just with Wilkin, but with the whole group.
Go to the left side, sorry.
Yeah, what have you seen from Hunter Wohler first? And then second of all, how much can you lean on Coach Hitch just having the familiarity with that secondary, especially the safeties units?
I have a ton of respect for him. I think he's a fantastic football player, and he's well coached, and I also think his instincts show up, you know, very productive. You know, for him to have the number of tackles that he had a year ago is impressive. And I have a ton of respect for him as a football player, the way he plays the game, the way he competes. I think that's pretty evident and stands out on film. And then Coach Hitch, you know, certainly there's things that you ask, as you can imagine, you know, to try to just understand the scheme. What I would say is that, you know, every year is different for each team. Every group of players is slightly different. You know, their group that they have this year, there's a lot of returners, you know, specifically in the back end and in the middle of their defense. But then there's some new pieces, you know, and we'll be ready to adjust depending on how they decide to play us. So, but certainly, yeah, there's things that we're, you know, talking to Coach Hitch about relative to, you know, the way that they structure their defense or the calls or whatever that may be. So, yeah, he's a great sounding board that way, and he's helpful that way.
Down the left side, front row, Joe.
Coach, can you speak on the challenges that the shuffling up front gave to the offense, and then really what y'all did to overcome the shuffling, and how close was Elijah to starting in the game on Saturday?
Well, we don't make any excuses. You know, the guys that are out there are starters, and their expectation is that they play well and execute and do their job. And so we don't look for that. We don't, you know, allow anybody in the building to talk about, you know, the shuffling. And I mean, the guys that are ready to practice, that's who we practice with, and we prepare them to execute and do their job. And if they're out there on the field, they're capable of doing it. And so that's really where our focus is. And, you know, as far as availability of players and what that looked like throughout the week, you know, we decided to go with the group that had the most reps together, you know, and moving forward, we'll do the same thing based on, you know, the health and availability of the group.
We've got 3 questions left, so we'll start here with Alex, right in the middle.
The explosive plays have obviously been there, which I'm sure you like, but the short to intermediate passing game, how would you like to see that kind of come along?
I think, you know, I think the down in and down out execution needs to improve, and that's really been a focus for the group because I think we all can see the explosiveness and the ability to score quickly, but you know, I think us being able to stack plays consecutively together and execute and do your job down in and down out, you know, not just specifically to the short and intermediate pass, but to in all areas. That's certainly a point of emphasis this week and moving forward that, we just stack good plays together, and the explosive plays will come in addition to that.
Travion, far left.
Hey, Coach. Can you just speak about what the offense, what's the offensive mindset this week heading into Wisconsin after seeing all the, just the small mistakes and stuff like that? What will be the mindset in practice this week?
Yeah, just as I mentioned, to make sure that we're detailing the right details and focus on execution. That's really been that'll be the focus this week, and excited about the opportunity to compete against a great opponent in a great environment, and looking forward to that challenge. And so that'll be the mindset.
All right, we're going to finish up with Katie.
What's going to be the emphasis on ball security after some of the fumbles in the first 2 games?
Well, and I know Coach mentioned this in the post game. We emphasize ball security each and every day in every drill. And we certainly have periods of practice where we're specifically drilling it. That won't change. It's not like we understand the importance of it. Our players understand the importance of it. The things that came up in the game can't happen. And our guys know that. We know that. So I wouldn't tell you that there'll be an extra emphasis, because it's always emphasized at a high level. And so this week will be no different. And so we look to improve in that area.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
Hey, everybody.
Coach, if you want to just open with a statement, and we'll go ahead and take some questions.
Okay. First off, to start off, just wanted to take a minute and talk about Q Robinson. His father passed away this past week, and such a difficult thing to go through, the loss of a family member. I can't think of a young man that has handled that better personally and with his teammates. He's a great son and was very supportive for his family and spent time with them this week, and also did a tremendous job of doing the extra things that it takes to prepare for a game. Our condolences go out to him and his family, but just so proud of who he is as a young man, the leader he is for our team. Our teammates, his teammates really surrounded him well this week, and then he went out and played very well for the second week in a row. So certainly want to recognize him. Looking back on last week, our recap of South Florida, one of the things that I told the guys, I said, you're learning lessons and learning how to get better through success and wins. Not everybody gets to say that in college football right now, and so that's important. I thought from a defensive standpoint, I thought we showed up in some critical moments in the game, which was encouraging to see. Some younger players stepped up in those moments as well, and then I thought the leadership of our defense showed out on the sideline and then out on the field as well. We had 8 3-and-outs in the game, at 13 what we call game changers, which I've gone kind of over those things with you guys as well. From a situational down standpoint, I thought we were dominant in the game. We were, I think, 17 of 20 overall on 3rd and 4th downs. We were 3 of 4 in the red zone, holding them to field goals. Really disappointed in the 1 touchdown that we gave up. Thought we should have been better there and given ourselves a chance to get another stop on 3rd down, and so we have to continue to improve. It's not okay to give up touchdowns in the red zone, even though we were able to win 3 out of the 4. No touchdowns again to begin and end each half. That's critical for starting fast as a defense and finishing well. I think in the 4th quarter right now, over 2 games, we're 35-3, which shows that our players are learning to finish. And then 0 explosive passes given up, and that's really challenging for an offense like that goes fast. They take shots downfield and do a number of things to force you to get your cleats out of the ground and then capitalize in the passing game. Probably the most disappointing thing was we had a number of explosive runs that were given up. We had a couple misfits. We had 3 times we did not execute our pressure properly, so we had essentially missed patterns in the pressures that we bring, and we've got to be able to capitalize off of those things. And then 2 missed tackles. So from a standpoint of, I thought we let the quarterback, when we call some of these pressures, the intent is to get the quarterback on the ground and make him uncomfortable. And I thought because we did not execute in that moment, we didn't take advantage of that, and thus they took advantage of it in the run game. So those are things that we've got to get cleaned up. Extremely disappointed in the lack of takeaways that we were not able to create. Their team did. They created 3 of them. We were -3 in the turnover margin, which is absolutely unacceptable by our defense. It has to be something that we focus on day in and day out. It's what we preach. It's who we are. It's what we believe in, and it did not show up in this game. And so something that we've got to continue to push and pressure to focus on getting that done on game day. So with that, moving on to next week, review of Wisconsin. First road game for us. I think it'll be a great test going up there into a really tremendous environment. They've got a great atmosphere there, beautiful campus, beautiful university. They've got their traditions in the 3rd quarter jump around. I think our guys got to lean into those things. I think they got to enjoy it and appreciate it and recognize some of the greatness of college football, and then go play the game at a really high level. I've always been impressed with Luke Fickell. Have had connections with him over the years. Years ago, when he was at Ohio State, he came down and visited us at Ole Miss, and kind of learned some of the things that we were doing defensively under my dad. Have kind of kept in touch with him over the years, and very impressed with his teams. I think his teams embody, who he is as an individual. Very tough, very demanding of his players, and you can see that there's a toughness and a physicality in the way that they are playing, and I think they're improving in that in year 2 from what we've seen so far. We're going to be facing a well-established offense. Phil Longo has had success at a number of stops, and has had tremendous quarterbacks that he has developed. Obviously, having another one in Tyler Van Dyke, who is developing in their system. You see him starting to lean in even from week 1 to week 2 and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. Think he has had great answers over the years. So very impressed by Phil and what he's done over the years. And I think year 2, you're starting to see some of the new wrinkles that they want to do offensively. I think they're effectively running the ball better than what they did a year ago. You can tell that they're schematically focused on that, and their players from a fundamental standpoint have improved in terms of the run game. So we'll have a good challenge for us. I think they've got some impressive skill, some guys that can win one-on-one matchups, and we'll have to do a great job of mixing zone and man coverage in order to minimize their effectiveness in the passing game. So with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you, Coach. Front right here. Go, Nick.
Yeah, you mentioned no explosive passing plays given up, but there were a few times where they just weren't able to connect and some busting coverage that way, or just guys who got past their guys. What are some of the teaching points there to make sure that doesn't happen?
So there were 2 times where I thought that guys were down the field. One was they were going fast 3 plays in a row. You've seen it at Oklahoma State was probably the team that was most famous for it. Back before they would, when a guy would substitute, now we give the defense a chance to sub. Well, back in the day, we didn't used to do that. So teams would just run the next wide receiver out and the next wide receiver out. And that's what they tried to do. And we had a substitution issue there where we didn't feel like we had the time to be able to get somebody back out there. And so we put a young corner in a tough spot where he was kind of in limbo. He wasn't in press coverage. He wasn't in off coverage. And he just got ran by because his eyes were in a bad spot. So the other one was just a technique error where a guy released inside. We were denying the outside release. We forced him to release inside, which is probably the only reason they didn't connect on the ball. We went back and looked at this a long time ago. When you look at inside release fade balls, the ones that you force a receiver to release inside versus if he gets the outside release on you, the completion percentage is far less on an inside release. So that was probably the only thing that saved us. However, we put our eyes in the backfield when we did get beat back inside instead of staying on top shoulder. So those are things that young players have to learn. They have to get corrected moving forward. And so that's really going to be the key is, making sure that those young guys learn from those mistakes.
Go left side, Katie.
What's going to be the challenge of not having Justin Jefferson for the first half, and kind of what was your perspective on the play that he got ejected on?
Yeah, we obviously it's always disappointing, right, when you have a dynamic player that is not available for one half of the game. We looked at the play. I looked at it from about every angle that I could. I think we just got to tell the young man, keep playing. So it is what it is. We'll deal with it and get ourselves ready for him in the second half. So.
Middle of the room, Emily Grace.
Coach, after having a chance to watch some film on Wisconsin along with USF, what do you foresee yourself spending the most time on with the defense this week?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of that question?
After watching film of Wisconsin and USF. Yeah.
Wisconsin or USF? Oh, both. Gotcha. Okay. All right. I think from the USF game, some of the things that we talked about just in terms of the run fits in particular, we got to get some of those things cleaned up. Really, it was just the explosive plays. They had a number of runs that I thought we played really well, but we've got to do that consistently when teams are going fast. That's really structurally and schematically, that's what USF is built to do. They're meant to try to get you on your heels so that you will misfit something or miss tackle. And I thought they did that a couple of times against us. So we've got to continue to learn from that. Looking ahead to Wisconsin, I think, this is a team that is taking great ownership of the physicality that they play with, their ability to run the football, the toughness that they have and carry. They're big people. I'll never forget years ago, I was at the University of Arkansas, and we had a great team, went to an SEC championship, and ended up playing Wisconsin in a bowl game. We were kind of the biggest team in the SEC and the biggest team, week in and week out that we faced. And you look across the sideline and you thought, oh, they look like us. They're big people. They're massive people. So, and so that's going to be a great challenge for us to be able to match that toughness and that physicality on their home turf. So excited for the challenge.
Let's go to Jack on the left side of the room.
Hey, Coach, I'm taking you back to week one for a second. We talked to Keon Sabb after the game, and he mentioned you used the phrase E-Bombay with your defense. I'm just curious, when did you start using that, and kind of what does it kind of represent for your group there? Well,
I am the Womack boys. We are Marvel fans, so we love the Marvel movies. And so in the movie Black Panther years ago when that came out, gosh, what was that, maybe 2015, 16, something like that. That movie came out, and, I'm always like, I guess I'm a nerd when it comes to some of those things, so I was like, what does E-Bombay mean? So I look it up, and it's actually I think it's an African Bantu language word that means hold fast the line. And so I thought, what a fitting chant, right, for a red zone defense, right, to hold the line. And so we talk about that. Doesn't matter how they get down in the red zone, whether there's we've turned the ball over or whether they've gone on a 16-play drive and it's 1st and goal from the 5-yard line. Everyone has to E-Bombay. We have to hold fast the line. We have to do our 1/11th to be able to hold the line in that situation. And I think that's something that our players have kind of leaned into over the years. And, we have been successful at a number of different places in the red zone, and I think we're taking the steps in the right direction here as well.
Stay on the left side with Steven.
Coach, obviously he's incredibly athletic, but Jihad Campbell, just his mentality of I'm going to make every play that I can. Yeah. What makes him special in that linebacker spot to make those plays?
Well, Jihad is a very gifted athlete, but he plays the game the way it's supposed to be played from a linebacker position. He is relentless in his pursuit of the ball. He plays with an extremely high motor. He's got great juice and energy, and we always talk about effort and finish as 4 to 6 seconds from point A to point B with violent intentions when we get there, and he certainly embodies that. So very proud of the effort that he has played with. I think that's a direct tribute to him leading us in tackles through 2 games as much as anything.
Go back over to the right side,
Matt. What do you think Tim Keenan did well on Saturday?
Man, so impressed with Tim Keenan. I think fundamentally he is playing with great hand placement, great block recognition, physical up front. He is doing such a better job of disengaging and getting off of blocks from where he was in the spring and where he was a year ago. That was something we really challenged him to be able to create production for himself by finishing plays, right? And I think he has done a tremendous job in that regard. So very proud of the work that he's put in and glad to see that he's being rewarded for that work that he puts in practice every day.
Got time for a couple more questions. Go to Chase on the left.
A couple of the stops that y'all got defensively on Saturday came off the turnovers, right? The second half kickoff, you get the missed field goal, you get the fumble on the goal line, you get a 3-and-out right there. Is there more value defensively in getting a stop off a turnover, and is that an identity builder?
Yeah, I think defenses, you can look at it 2 different ways. You can look at it as, hey, there's such adversity and all the momentum is on their sideline, and versus this is an opportunity for us to regain momentum for our football team, right? And so when you're coming on the field off of a turnover, what we call a sudden change situation. Our players have to understand this is an opportunity as a defense to create momentum back for ourselves. The momentum is most certainly going to be on their sideline in that moment. You get offensive coordinators that are going to be a little more aggressive in that moment. They may open up the playbook in that situation. And so it's really critical, right, that you have great communication. You play with an effort that matches the you know, kind of the motivation that they have and the momentum that they have on that side of the ball. And I thought our players did a really tremendous job in those situations, in those moments of getting stops for the most part. We weren't consistent enough in it, but certainly a steps in the right direction.
All right, we'll finish up with Cody right in the middle.
Curious what you saw in Coach Hitchler that made you want to add him to the staff and coach the DBs here.
Yeah. So Hitch and I had worked together before. Probably the best game day mind adjustment-wise that I've been around. He sees things up in the box, does a great job of being kind of my eyes and ears up there from a communication standpoint on game day. I've been around some really special defensive coaches over the years, and he's probably up there at the top of the list in terms of his ability to create value for as a defensive staff on game day. And so he is somebody I certainly lean on and rely on up there. My dad told me that years ago, if you're going to be up in the box, you better have somebody great on the field. If you're going to be on the field, you better have somebody great up in the box. And I think Hitch does a really tremendous job from that standpoint. You know, one of the ways that I think he creates value for his players is the way he coaches those guys to understand offensive recognition, how to recognize what is going to happen, play with anticipation. You know, we've talked about that before. Defense is inherently reactionary. We're trying to get our guys to play with anticipation. I think he does that as good as anybody. So very, very happy for him to be here with us, and excited to kind of be back in the foxhole with him again.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Coach, if you want to go ahead and make an opening statement.
Yeah, you bet.
Go ahead and take questions.
Yep. Good morning. Got through the weekend. I hope you guys had a good weekend, and I know you got a lot of information from the coordinators already. But probably one of the things I know I'll get asked is about injuries, and so just hit on a couple guys probably that will come up. Cole Adams got hurt upper extremity injury, and you know, we'll kind of see how he goes through the week here. We wouldn't rule him out, but you know, I think probably be very limited early, and we'll see how it goes throughout the week there. But and then Pritchett played, you know, in the game as you saw last, I think 6 plays or so, and came out good with that. You know, practiced towards the end of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, a little limited, more limited on Wednesday, and as the week went on, practiced and felt okay about him being out there. Felt good about him being out there, and he came in and did a nice job. And the big thing is that he got through healthy, and that was a key there. And then Caden Proctor, you know, he will continue to work on his functional movement and all that kind of stuff early in the week, and keep progression in a way where I feel, you know, we're going to be pretty dang close by the weekend of getting him on the football field. So I feel like he's coming along real well, especially at the end of last week, working extremely hard to get back out there. I know a lot of the things that both coordinators talked about. I think a lot of the stuff that needs to be worked on was pretty obvious. I think sometimes you look at a game and maybe statistics don't show the things that we know as a staff we need to work on. I think pretty obvious penalties and takeaway turnovers, creating takeaways and limiting the turnovers is a high priority. It always is. Not something that we don't take lightly. It's something that's an emphasis every single day. So we'll continue to do that. And there were some highlights I thought that you can take from the game. Both sides of the ball as a team continue to fight, continue to play. Didn't feel like our guys ever came up short with the amount of energy and effort. I think they had a ton of energy and want to before the game. At halftime, thought they regrouped. Thought both sides were holding themselves accountable for the things that they knew they needed to clean up. We cleaned up some of those things, I think, in the second half. Other issues presented themselves, and in the end, though, they're going to find a way. And they kept fighting. They kept playing together. They took it on themselves and individually, their unit, to go make the plays and trust the other side of the ball that they'd get it done as well. So I'm proud of that piece. Tomorrow, go back to work. Today's their day off from practice, and the guys came in yesterday excited, ready to go with the challenge that lies ahead with Wisconsin. And there is